Well, I think obviously, starting he has a much better command of what they're doing schematically, and you can just tell he's definitely improved. Does a nice job spreading the football around. When you look at all their receivers, they got one with 19 catches, one with 18. Their top 4 or 5 receivers anywhere from 19 to 15 receptions, so he's doing a good job spreading the ball around. He's managing the game really well. Just seems to be very under control. He takes some shots, so he'll stand in the pocket when he feels pressure coming. As you remember a year ago, Jordan Brooks, came after him pretty good down there in the red zone, hit him one time. I've watched him take some shots against, Kansas and Baylor and even Oklahoma State, but he stands in the pocket and delivers the football.
And then for you guys, where's the biggest improvement or biggest step forward that your defense has taken maybe from week one to now?
I didn't put a lot of stock in week one just because there was a lot of moving parts. Really kind of just focused on what we've done in Big 12 play. I think obviously we want to develop more consistency. There's at times when during the course of all 3 of those games we're playing extremely well, and we just got to learn to stack success and be able to become a more consistent defense. And I think that's what's important about this week. That we've been talking about with our staff as well as our players. This is an important week for us to step up and take a big step defensively by playing consistently. I mean, like we did at time in the Texas game, in that stretch where, you hold them to 38 total yards and 3 points in 5 consecutive series throughout the third and fourth quarter. We just got to learn to continue to stay focused, and I think that's going to lead to greater execution.
Go to Carlos Silva.
Hey, Coach. I guess just in terms of West Virginia, I know you've seen some really good running backs so far. Deuce, you had Brees prior. I guess what's made Letty Brown so good, and just what's allowed him to be so successful this season?
I think they're a lot more balanced as a team. Anytime that, I think last year they really struggled running the football. I think they're much improved up front offensively. They got some big offensive linemen that are doing a really nice job. I think they're much improved. So I don't think they're as one-dimensional as what they were a year ago, trying to, throw the ball. You could make them fairly predictable and basically challenge them to run the football. So you got to get them off schedule. You got to get them behind the chain. And I think that's probably and he's a better player than what he was a year ago. I think he's really improved. He's running extremely hard. People are coming up trying to knock him down, and he's not going down easily. He's running through tackles, so he's been very impressive. And I think that's probably the biggest difference that I've seen is just a more consistent run pass, and development in their team and their scheme.
Last one for me, I guess. I know they kind of came in at different times, but a little later than normal players do. But what have you seen in terms of development from Tyree and Colin Schooler? And what I don't know if it's a singular player, just something that maybe you've seen throughout the week that's allowed you to realize, okay, these guys are really kind of getting a little bit quicker than maybe you had anticipated.
Yeah, I think again, it just takes time. When you come in like when both those guys did, and under the circumstances of a unique season, it's been a little bit more of a challenge probably than normal. But I think just their both of them, just their instinctiveness to be able to play and make plays naturally without really understanding, kind of what's going all around them. But I think just as the more we play here over the next 6 games, I think you're going to see both those guys make big strides in developing and becoming more consistent players for us. And, it's one of those things that just takes time. And they're both very talented. And I just think being able to be a part of what we're doing and just simplifying things and continuing to try to, what do we do well? That's what we really focused on. What do we not do so well? That's been the biggest emphasis from a week ago, and really try to, look at that to be able to develop our scheme around those guys.
Go to Shihan.
Hey, Coach. Two sort of related questions. So first of all, one thing that I know that you kind of talked about a lot is sort of roster balance in terms of older players and younger players. Where do you feel like you guys are at right now on defense in terms of that? And on top of that, with adding so many grad transfers, so many older players who are coming in, what kind of difficulties does that pose, like you kind of mentioned, in terms of trying to scheme and do more complex schemes or just having to simplify things?
Well, I think there's obviously a balance. I mean, we have to have time to develop younger players. I mean, you bring in freshmen, that's what we say that we hang our hat on, with shoals from nutrition and strength and conditioning, and that takes time, obviously. So I think there is a balance, and I think we've done a good job. If you look at the players that we have brought in, they have multiple years. We're not just bringing in a bunch of guys that are one and done. We brought in, the majority of our guys have 2 and 3 years of eligibility, which is a positive. And again, I think it buys you time in being able to stay old, as well as, develop younger players. And I think we've maintained a pretty good balance, to be honest with you, with the numbers of guys that have multiple years of eligibility.
On another note, what have you guys kind of seen defending Henry at quarterback? I mean, is there anything that he kind of specifically has brought, or any way that things are kind of different?
Talking about our own quarterback?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've had the opportunity to be able to watch him over the last couple of years, and here what I recognize in him, that number one, he's a coach's kid, and he has just I don't know what you say about it, other than just he has a calmness about himself. He has a presence about himself. He believes in himself, in his ability. So we'll see how. It's one thing to be a backup. It's another thing to be a starter, and I think he'll come in and play within the system.
Go back to Eric Kelly.
We hadn't seen a whole lot of DeMarcus Fields before Iowa State, but he made some nice plays. I think I remember a couple pass breakups in the end zone. What did you like from what you saw from him?
Yeah, I like DeMarcus. I like his competitive spirit. I like it. He's strong. He's fast. He's got all the physical tools that it takes to become a really, really good defensive back. Just trying to figure out, where to get him in the right spot in our scheme. We've played him at corner. We've tried to play him a little bit at nickel. And I think just when he came back, I just felt like that we needed someone who's going to be able to get up and challenge people. And he's the type guy that can do that. He's got great cover skills. He's got great, like I said, size, speed, and strength. So I really like where he is, and he's coming to practice every single day. He wants to get better and is trying to improve. So he's made some incredible plays, made some really, really big plays on vertical shots over the last couple of weeks. So he brings a confidence. There was a time in the game the other day he said, "Coach, put me on that tight end." I mean, so he believes in himself, and I really like what he brings to the back end.
The back end as a whole, Matt was talking a little early last week, the improvements he's seen, especially in terms of kind of keeping the ball in front of him. Where have you seen that back line develop? I know it's something that you like, the depth there, especially. Yeah, I mean, basically that's it. I mean, we're not giving up the explosive plays. I mean, if you look at the 2 longest pass plays against us this year, it's a 5-yard route and a climb on a naked bootleg, and I mean, for 70 and 66 yards. Other than that, the longest pass versus us this year is against Texas, and it was 31 yards. If you go back through the first 4 or 5 games a year ago, it wasn't 31 yards. So I like the fact that we are staying sound vertical. I think the biggest challenge is now we need to tighten up the screws a little bit in our run fits and getting our guys more involved in run defense, and making sure that they understand that either a safety or a corner has to be involved in that. And I think once we can tighten up the run a little bit,
that's the biggest improvement I see is just the sound vertical coverage.
Go to Don to wrap up.
Hey Keith, Matt was talking earlier today about some of the difficulties that y'all have had just getting lined up at times, getting calls in and relayed from cornerbacks to safeties and to whomever among your players. He said it's been a few, but he said a few is too many. What are kind of your thoughts on maybe what issues you've had there and how to remedy those?
Yeah, the only issue I saw was against Iowa State, and a lot of it wasn't necessarily getting the call in as much as it was just that we don't see a lot of trade shifts and motions, when we're going against our offense or where, and it's hard to emulate that. Maybe the speed and the tempo of it. Early in the game against Iowa State, they were trading and shifting a lot, and we were playing some man in a couple of those situations. So as far as just getting lined up, it was a little bit helter-skelter. The biggest thing to me in the Iowa State game was we didn't adjust soundly to the FIB where they were trading into the boundary, getting us a little bit outflanked. And you're talking about a matter of like a yard or 2 yards, and just being close to making a play. That 1 yard can make a difference. There was a time or two where our linebackers didn't get kicked over, where one of my safeties we didn't get adjusted to the wing and to the boundary, and it led to a couple of big runs. Again, one of them was a 28-yard run, the other one was a 26-yard run, and just misaligning by a yard, and in some cases maybe 3 yard. It makes a big difference, and that was probably the biggest issue. And honestly, probably against Iowa State, I might have tried to scheme too much, because I thought there were some things that we could do to try to attack those guys a little bit more effectively. And sometimes what I think might be easy, it might not be easy to a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. So that was probably the biggest thing. But I think just being simple and sound is where we've been our best this year, and we got to be able to execute. So things that I might see as being easy sometimes aren't always easy on the field.
And also, West Virginia was one of y'all's best performances last year. What are you able to take from that possibly translate to doing it again this week?
Well, I think that last year was last year, and I think to this point, obviously, I think we've outperformed in our first 3 Big 12 opponents what we did a year ago against all 3 of those guys. So I think that's just got to be the goal. It really is just more of a focus on us and consistency in defensive performance. It's time. It's time for our guys to step up and I really have challenged these guys to. This is the week. Let's the next 6 games. Let's show marked improvement. Let's continue to sit here and become a consistent defense, one that is going to make it tough on people for 4 quarters to try to get into the end zone, and we can do that. I know we can. It's just a matter of, we've consistently evaluated here over the first 3 weeks, and for sure during the open week last week, took a really hard look at what can we do and what do we really do well. And I think we have a pretty good grasp on that, and I think we're going to build it around our skill set of our young men and see if we can develop consistency.
Well, and any decision you make is what you feel and what offensive staff-wise, and Coach Wells is very involved with this too, is what's best for the team, what's best for the offense, what's going to give you the best chance to go out and win. So that kind of overrides all those things. So it kind of gives you a baseline to kind of work off of and everything. It's never a fun meeting on the one side, and it's a really fun meeting on the other side. But that's part of the deal, and I've had to do it before, and I'm sure it'll happen again in my career at some point. So, but it just comes down to who do you think gives you the best chance to win a game this Saturday against West Virginia, and did a lot of kind of evaluating, looking at the kind of the two previous games, what Henry was able to do in those games, what Allen was able to do in the Iowa State game, and everything, and where we're kind of at and what we kind of need.
And then how do you then take a guy? Does a guy almost have to learn how to, get into the mood of being a starter when he hasn't done it for so long, or is it kind of just playing quarterback is playing quarterback?
Well, I think it's, I'm sure it's different. I mean, there's probably a lot more excitement. I mean, we constantly talk about you're one snap away. I mean, like in the K-State game, he was one snap away from having to come in and play, and it's how you prepare, and your teammates know how you prepare, because how you go in and play is kind of indicative of that. And how he was able to go in the K-State game, and it took a little time to kind of get in the flow of it and everything. But then once he did, he was very much on task for what the game plan was and how we were attacking him, and did a nice job. So I think Henry treats it very much like a professional. I mean, getting himself ready, and I'm sure is a little bit more excited knowing that he's going to be starting the football game now. So that'll go into it. But I think he knows how to prepare, and will put himself in the position to go out and play his best game for his teammates.
Go to Don Williams.
David, how long did it take y'all to arrive at the decision between that Saturday game at Iowa State and when Matt announced it last week?
Well, we went through the video multiple times like we normally do, and we had a little extra time with having the bye week and everything. I sat and kind of told both quarterbacks on Monday what we were doing and how we were moving forward and everything, and then Wednesday it kind of, really the reason Coach probably announced it on Wednesday was due to the fact that was our first day. Really, the varsity, our older guys took reps in practice, and the young guys kind of went on Tuesday. We didn't practice on Monday. Tuesday was a practice for kind of take some of the veterans out, and that are guys that had gotten a lot of reps so far in the season. So Wednesday was the first day, so we did it in practice, and then he announced it afterwards because figured it would get out as things move and everything. But no, we made kind of the decision through Sunday and Monday morning and everything, and then once I met with them on Monday afternoon, we watched the video, went through it, and then individually met with each quarterback and told them kind of where we're at and what we're doing moving forward.
Yep. West Virginia seems like they've really got it going on defense so far early this year. What are your observations about what they're doing defensively?
Very, very disruptive D-line, similar to what we saw kind of going into the game last year. Those guys are back up front. The 55 and 56, the brothers, they do a great job of being disruptive with how they move and twist in the line games that they use, and then they're very, very athletic. And then what they're able to do kind of on the back end, it's a little bit of a hybrid of the three safety structure that we saw from like Iowa State and a two safety. They end up with a lot of four-man rush. And that way I think it's just a philosophical deal that they believe in, and then it's how they kind of disperse their secondary. Not a heavy blitz team, but they kind of simulate blitz with how they bring the bandit, him in conjunction with their Mike linebacker, and then how they use the Will linebacker and their nickel, or those guys as far as giving you the effect of more pressure and than what they really are doing. So they're able to kind of play coverage behind it, which is good. They're able to keep things in front of them. A lot of cover 2, cover 4, different versions of those, and that not a lot of straight man coverage in that way, but do a great job. And then they've been able to get to the quarterback on a 3-man and 4-man rush because of the guys up front, how they're able to kind of put the pressure on the quarterback. So it's a good challenge for us in a lot of areas.
We'll go to Shihan.
Hey, Coach, moving over to a different quarterback, what do you think that he kind of adds maybe to your passing game, and what kind of schematically do you think that you're going to do to take advantage of it?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of difference offensively. I mean, there's certain plays that I think he probably feels better about in our drop back game and our in that way. I know when he has the ability to check. I mean, they kind of have their own flavor a little bit on what they kind of look for and kind of the order they look for it. But there's a lot of similarities. He was able to kind of add a little bit of the scramble part when he played against K-State. Did some of that in the toward the end of that Iowa State game in that way. So he does kind of add that to it. We got to make sure we're getting through our progressions and finding the open guy at a high rate. So I mean, there's a lot of the same stuff and how we would be really how attacking the West Virginia's defense. There's not a lot of change between the two in that way of kind of our philosophy and everything, and then it's how he'll go out and execute it and getting him to the right spot and making good decisions and getting through the progression so he can make those decisions.
Obviously, for fans and for me and all that, we see, sometimes this guy looks better on these drives, that sort of stuff. But for you guys, what is your evaluation process like when you're trying to decide how a quarterback's playing and whether you need to make a change?
Well, it's you kind of evaluate the guys as they play and what they're doing and what they're able to accomplish and kind of how it's working for them. In that way, I mean, Allen having the first two games, played only a small bit of the K-State game and then the Iowa State game. You kind of use those in the evaluation, and then how kind of Henry was able to come into the K-State game, and then when he came in at the Iowa State game, kind of what he brought to the table. And you just have to you look at those things, you watch them, you try to make sure you're seeing what they're seeing as you're kind of evaluating them, grading them, making sure they're doing what you want them to do the way you want them to do it to give themselves the best chance to be successful so the offense can be successful. And then it's which guy's going to give you the best chance to kind of lead the offense to scoring points, because ultimately that's our responsibility on offense is to score points and put our team in the best position to win a football game.
Go to Ronald Clark.
Coach, in those first three games, obviously you guys had some up and down with the run game, but at some point, you finally got it going. Against this Iowa State team a couple weeks ago, it seemed like the offense never really got that run game going. Granted, you guys were playing from behind. What's the mentality of just that group going into, another week?
Well, I think it's they've got something to prove. They got a little chip on their shoulder. I don't think what we put on video and how we performed against Iowa State is indicative of the talent or the ability that we have and all that. And we got Iowa State did a great job of attacking what we did and kind of defeating some of our blocks in that way. And then schematically, they got us a couple times with some of how fast the safeties came down. So they did a good job, and they executed their game plan better than we were able to execute our game plan in the run game. But I think there's a challenge there. I think those guys will excited to get kind of back on the field and kind of prove that we can run the football when we want to run it, and how we'll do that. And West Virginia is a great challenge for that, because they give you some different problems than what Iowa State does with how they kind of align their defense and how they attack up front on the line of scrimmage. But it's a good challenge, and we got to do a great job of getting on those guys, staying on those guys, and finishing those blocks so our backs have an opportunity to make the plays we know they're capable of.
We've got time for one more. We'll go to Phil Mayer to finish.
Coach, when you have a guy like Henry who's making his first college start, how much is that bye week preparation help out?
Oh, it was good. I mean, it gave him a chance to kind of settle into the position a little bit, so it wasn't just in a kind of a 7-day or 6-day kind of quick window where it's happening. He kind of got to settle into that and kind of get over the whole effect with his teammates, and then having extra time to watch West Virginia last week, and then just adding they played Kansas on Saturday, just adding that to kind of the evaluation. And as you prep for them and prepare for them, is kind of verify some things. Yep, this is what they did to this. Hope they did this a little differently. How are they going to defend us that way? We got to be ready for whatever they're going to do and how they want to do it. But I think I gave him some time to kind of settle into the position and get a little calmness to him. And then what we have to do is have a great week of practice, build that confidence in him and in the offense, and then go out and perform on Saturday.